It was 7 p.m. The fire was raging through Los Angeles, and our neighborhood, Wilshire Boulevard, had just been ordered to evacuate. I, Michael, a 38-year-old architect who'd grown up in LA my whole life, stood anxiously in the living room watching the news. My mind was racing, thinking about my recent promotion, the new electric car I'd bought when this disaster struck. My wife, Julia, a 36-year-old successful real estate agent, was in the kitchen, hurriedly packing food for the kids so they wouldn't go hungry on the road. Our two kids, 10-year-old Kira and 7-year-old Luca, were staring out their bedroom window at the spreading smoke and reddening sky, a mix of awe and fear in their eyes. To them, it felt like a scene from an adventure movie. But in my heart, alarm bells were ringing. The fire department's sirens were getting louder, closer. The TV news kept blaring warnings. The fire was spreading fast, and we had to leave now. Julia came to me, her face pale with worry. "Michael, we've got to go! It looks like the fire's reaching our block." I nodded and called the kids. Kira and Luca ran to us, their eyes still wide with curiosity. We quickly grabbed a big travel bag, stuffing it with some essential clothes, our passports, and important family documents. Kira slipped in her favorite tablet, and Luca tucked in his dinosaur toy book. Julia grabbed a small wooden box, her grandmother's old jewelry, passed down through generations. It wasn't just jewelry, it was our family's memories, our legacy. We threw everything into the car's trunk. Outside, the smell of smoke was so thick it was hard to breathe. Black ash floated in the air like someone had spilled ink over the city. The streets were packed with long lines of cars, everyone scrambling to get to safety. People were running on foot too, fear and helplessness written all over their faces. We decided to head to our longtime friend Keith's house on the other side of the city, where it was still safe from the fire. Keith, our college buddy, was like a rock, always there for us in tough times. I slid into the driver's seat, Julia and the kids in the back. I started the car and shifted into gear when Julia's scream startled me. "Michael, my jewelry box! I left it on the coffee table!" Her voice was thick with desperation, her eyes filling with tears. That box wasn't just jewelry, it was an emotional anchor. I took a deep breath. In this chaos, leaving that precious heirloom behind felt like a devastating loss. "I'll grab it, Julia. It'll take 1 minute. Stay here with the kids." I tried to reassure her, though my heart was pounding with unease. I jumped out of the car and ran back to the house. After unlocking the door and stepping inside, my feet froze. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it in my ears. A strange sound came from inside, a faint thud, like something falling. Was it a mistake? Was it my imagination stirred by this disaster and chaos? But the sound was real. I cautiously peeked into the living room. What I saw was far worse than anything I could have imagined, and it was real. Two shadows were moving in our brightly lit living room. Their faces were covered with masks, and their hands held gleaming tools. A burly guy was trying to pull our big flat-screen TV off the wall, while another, slimmer and quicker, was rifling through Julia's purse, pulling things out. They were burglars. In the middle of this natural disaster, this panic and uncertainty, they were looting homes without fear. For a split second, I thought about shouting, stopping them, fighting them. A wave of anger surged through me. This was my home, my hard-earned stuff, my family's memories. But then I thought of my kids, waiting in the car, surrounded by smoke and danger. Their safety was everything. I couldn't take the risk. What did these burglars have? Were they armed? I couldn't leave my kids orphaned. That thought hit me like a crushing weight. I quietly stepped back, controlling my breathing. I closed the door softly, so softly it made no sound. I locked it from the outside, thinking at least they'd be trapped inside until I could get help. But in that moment, where was help? Everyone was running for their lives. The police and firefighters were busy battling the fire.
No one would care about a burglary right now. I raced back to the car, sweat dripping down my forehead, my hands trembling. Julia and the kids saw me running, their faces full of worry. "What happened, Michael? Why do you look so shaken? Didn't you find the box?" Julia asked. I panted. "Nothing, Julia. I couldn't find the bag, and I think we need to get out of here fast. The fire's getting closer and there's no signal to call 911. I deliberately didn't mention the burglary. I didn't want the kids to know thieves had broken into our home. It would have been too terrifying, too upsetting for them. We barely made it through the traffic to Keith's house. Keith hugged us, relieved we were safe. All night we stayed restless, watching news about the fire on TV. I kept replaying that scene, the burglars in our home. A strange mix of fear, anger, and helplessness churned inside me. I didn't tell Keith about it either. I didn't want anyone else to worry. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those masked faces. My mind tangled in thoughts of what would have happened if they'd seen me at 4 a.m., when the fire was mostly under control and we were allowed back into our neighborhood. We headed home. My hopes were low, but a tiny spark of optimism lingered. Maybe everything was okay. But when I opened the door, the sight confirmed my fears. Our home was wrecked. The TV was gone, Julia's purse was emptied, and worst of all, her precious jewelry box, her mother's heirlooms, was missing. It was our shared family legacy, something money couldn't replace. When Julia saw it, she burst into tears. "What is all this, Michael?" she sobbed. I had no choice but to tell her everything I'd seen that night. She was in shock, but the real weight was crushing me. I'd put my family in danger because of one moment of hesitation. Why didn't I speak up? Why didn't I confront them? The sting of the theft, the thought that I'd endangered them instead of protecting them, it was eating me alive. Since that day, I can't sleep. Every sound makes me jump. Those burglars may be gone, but they left behind an endless fear, distrust, and torment. My home is just a structure now. Its soul is gone. I still remember that night like it was yesterday. It was probably mid-December 2024. The cold in Los Angeles was at its peak, and to make matters worse, a terrifying wildfire had engulfed the city. The smell of smoke and the glow of red flames had reached our neighborhood in Santa Monica. It was 7 p.m. and I, Lisa, a 28-year-old freelance writer who spent most of her time working from home, was sitting in my apartment's living room watching evacuation news on TV. My younger sister, Clara, a university student, was out of town for a project. I had no idea that this night would become one of the most terrifying of my life. The TV kept repeating evacuation orders. The fire's intensity had reached dangerous levels in parts of the city. My friend Jessica had called earlier telling me she was evacuating her house and that I needed to leave immediately. I knew I had to go, but I was dragging my feet. My work was unfinished and I was hoping the fire wouldn't reach our area so quickly. I looked at my beloved cat, Socks, sleeping peacefully on the couch. Her innocence melted my heart and I decided I couldn't waste any more time. I had to save her at all costs. I put Socks in her carrier, grabbed a small bag with essential documents and my laptop. As I headed for the door, my hand reached the handle. I turned it, but the door wouldn't budge. I tried again, pulling harder, nothing. I thought maybe the key was stuck. I grabbed my key and tried unlocking it again, but the door stayed shut. I pushed with all my strength, banged on it, but it wouldn't move. This wasn't normal. My first thought was a faulty lock, but after every effort failed, a chilling realization hit me. This door wasn't stuck by accident. It had been locked or blocked from the outside. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer. Just an eerie, unnatural silence. I pounded on the door. "Open the door! This isn't a joke!" Still, only silence. My mind raced. I remembered a heated argument with my neighbor David a few weeks ago over a parking spot. He was a strange, hot-headed guy, always picking fights. I'd been harsh with him and he'd threatened me, saying, "I'll get you." I thought it was just empty words spoken in anger, but now his threat echoed in my ears. Was it him? Could he really stoop so low as to trap me here during this deadly fire? How was this possible? Outside, the fire and death were raging, and I was trapped in my own home. I ran to the window. Down below, people were scrambling in chaos, fire truck sirens piercing the air, black clouds of smoke swallowing the sky like an impending storm. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. Jumping would be suicide. I pulled out my phone to dial 911, but the signal was terrible. The fire must have affected the towers, or the network was completely jammed. Sweat dripped down my face, and Socks was meowing frantically in her carrier, as if she sensed the danger too. Her eyes were wide with fear. I rushed back to the door, banging on it, screaming, "Is anyone there? Get me out! I'm trapped!" My voice drowned in the smoke and the roar of sirens. I tried peering under the door, but I saw nothing. Then I heard it. A faint sound like someone breathing outside. He was still there. Why wouldn't he let me out? Did he want to watch me burn? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. My heart was pounding with terror. I felt like my time was running out and I was helpless. The smell of smoke was getting stronger inside. I looked out the window again. The flames were closer now, their red glow spreading into my living room like a fiery blanket. The windows were starting to heat up. My throat was dry and breathing was getting harder. Every breath tasted like smoke. I was certain it was David. There was always a cold, almost psychotic glint in his eyes. I'd ignored his odd behavior before, but now it clicked. He'd trapped me here because of that petty parking dispute. It was a terrifying, deadly act of revenge. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I didn't give up. I pounded on the door with all my strength, screaming David's name, cursing him. All my frustration and anger poured into my voice. Something inside me sparked, a new surge of strength. I kept banging on the door, my palms aching, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to die. Not like this. Socks was restless in her carrier, jumping around as if cheering me on. I don't know if my screams or curses scared him off, or if the situation outside got too dangerous for him to stay. Maybe he feared getting caught in the fire himself. But after what felt like an eternity, when I tried the handle one last time, the door opened. The block was gone. I don't know when or how it was removed. I didn't waste a second. I bolted out, clutching Socks, and ran down the stairs faster than I ever had. The smoke and heat outside choked me. Sirens were deafening, searching now, deafeningly loud. People were running in a frenzy, some screaming, some shoving each other. I didn't care about them, I just kept running. My lungs were burning, but I couldn't stop. I kept running until I reached Jessica's car. She was waiting for me, her face pale with worry. "Lisa, what were you doing in there? We've been waiting forever. We thought you were in trouble," she said, her voice full of panic. I didn't tell her the truth, just said the door got stuck. It was too hard to share what happened right then. That scene, David's face, it was burned into my mind, too heavy to share. I don't even remember how I got to safety. Since that night, I haven't seen David, and I don't have the courage to face him. The fear from that night still lives inside me. Every time I see a locked door, I feel like someone's blocking it from the outside, and an unknown terror creeps in. It's a wound I'll never forget, one that's left a deep fear in me. I jump at every sound now, always glancing at the door. My name is Jacob. It was a foggy January evening in 2025 when Los Angeles was swallowed by fire. I left my apartment around 7 p.m. My job was to evacuate people in emergencies, and tonight, my team was being sent to the city's southern side. Outside, the smoke was so thick it draped everything in a grey haze. Ash was falling from the sky like burning snow. Sirens wouldn't stop, and a strange panic hung in the air.
I was in my Jeep listening to the radio. Reports said several areas had been evacuated and the fire was rapidly closing in on residential neighborhoods. I was worried about my family, especially my little sister Sarah. I called her and she said she was safe at a friend's place. That gave me some relief, but my heart was still racing. Traffic was a nightmare. I barely moved a mile. Everyone was frantic and so was I. By 8:30 p.m. I was still stuck in traffic, worried I wouldn't reach my team in time. I pulled out my phone to update my boss, but there was no signal. I opened my map and decided to take a detour through a quiet, deserted alley. I hoped it'd be less congested. The alley cut through an old industrial area, abandoned factories and empty warehouses. There were no streetlights, and the usual city noise was gone. Just the distant roar of flames and the eerie whistle of the wind. I drove my Jeep slowly. The smoke was so dense I could barely see. My headlights were dimming in the haze. Then I spotted a vehicle parked on the side of the road. It was an old black pickup truck, its back open, engine off, just sitting there in the dark. I tried to pass it. As I drove by, the driver's side window of the pickup slid down slowly. I looked over, startled. A man's face leaned out. He was middle-aged, with white hair and deep wrinkles etched into his face. His eyes, even in the darkness and smoke, were sharp and unnaturally bright. A thin, creepy smile curled on his lips, clear even through the haze. "Emergency services?" he said in a rough, low voice, like he was reading the logo on my Jeep. "There's no way through up ahead." I tried to ignore him and sped up. How did he know my route? It felt off. "You sure you know where you're going?" he called out louder, like he knew I was lost. There was a strange confidence, almost a taunt in his voice. My nerves kicked in, and I rolled up my window. As I did, I saw him step out of his pickup. He stood in the middle of the road, staring at me. The red glow of the fire lit up his face, making him look even more mysterious. His hands were in his pockets, his posture eerily calm, like he knew my Jeep was about to stop. I floored it to get away, but a short distance later, my Jeep just stopped. The engine went silent. I tried starting it over and over. Nothing. My heart jumped into my throat. I'd never felt so helpless, so terrified. I glanced back. The pickup truck was now parked behind me, its headlights glaring, lighting up my Jeep in the dark alley. I saw him step out of his truck and walk toward me. His hands were still in his pockets, but his walk was more confident now. As he approached, he spoke into the quiet street. "You're stuck, aren't you? I can get you out of here." His voice was clearer now. There was something familiar in it, like he knew me. I locked my door and fumbled to dial 911, my hands shaking. He saw me messing with my phone. He came closer and tapped lightly on my driver's side window. His eyes were right in front of mine now. In the smoke and firelight, they had a glint that chilled me to the bone. "Your gas is out," he said softly. "You've got no way to escape." I remembered filling my tank that morning. It couldn't be empty. How did he know about my gas? A shiver ran through me. He knew too much about me. In this fiery chaos, his words felt more terrifying than the flames or smoke. He wasn't just a stranger. He knew me somehow, and he was feeding on my fear. I started blaring the horn, hoping someone would hear. He looked into my eyes, that thin, creepy smile spreading wider. He tilted his head slightly like he was enjoying my panic. "No one's going to hear you," he said calmly. "It's just fire, smoke, and us." That sentence shook me to my core. I felt trapped in his grip with no one to save me. He placed his hand on the window, staring at my face for a long moment. The glint in his eyes turned almost obsessive. Then, in an instant, like a shadow vanishing, he turned and walked back to his pickup. I watched his back until he got in and disappeared into the smoky haze. My Jeep was still dead. I'd finally gotten through to 911 and was on the line, trying to explain. but my voice was so shaky they could barely understand me. A while later, an emergency vehicle arrived and got me out of there. My Jeep was left on the road as they were closing streets fast. Since that night, I haven't slept right. His face, his voice, they've haunted me. That line, "You've got no way to escape," and his eerie presence replay in my mind constantly. I still don't know who he was, how he knew about my Jeep or me, or what he wanted. The fire's out, but the fear of that stranger still burns inside me. Whenever I'm alone in my car, especially on quiet roads, I feel like he's still out there, watching me, knowing I have no way out.